The forgotten vessel. The Calmera outpost hung in the void like a rusted chandelier, its docking rings cluttered with vessels both functional and forgotten. Ellie Morgan stood on the observation deck, her reflection ghosted in the viewport glass. Tall, wiry, with a tangle of copper hair barely contained by a bandana emblazoned with Earth's old flag. Her weathered jacket bore patches from salvage guilds across 3 systems, and the toolkit slung across her back had survived more atmospheric entries than most pilots. Final call for Lot 437, announced the auction VI, its holographic form flickering with intermittent power surges. Non-functional Xeran vessel, class unidentified, salvage rights only. Starting bid, 50 credits. The auction hall, little more than a repurposed cargo bay, remained silent. The dozen or so attendees, representing various species and salvage operations, glanced at each other with knowing looks. Xeran technology was notoriously incompatible with everything else in the galaxy, and a non-functional hulk would be worth less than the fuel needed to tow it. 40 credits. The VI tried again. 30. Ellie studied the holographic display. The vessel resembled a manta ray carved from obsidian, its hull marred by what appeared to be weapon impacts. Something about its lines spoke of elegance, purpose, a far cry from the utilitarian boxes that humans had cobbled together for their early ventures into deep space. 20 credits. The VI continued its downward spiral. 10 credits. 5. Ellie called out, not entirely sure why. The salvage business was about profit margins, not aesthetics or curiosity. Yet something about this abandoned ship called to her. The VI's avatar turned toward her, its expression unreadable. 5 credits from the human representative. Going once. Twice. Sold to Morgan Salvage Enterprises for 5 credits. A ripple of chittering laughter spread through the assembled aliens. A tall, mantis-like Vespid leaned toward her, mandibles clicking with amusement. Your species' reputation for collecting useless artifacts remains intact, it said, compound eyes glittering. The Xerans abandoned that vessel 30 cycles ago, when they retreated from this sector. It's been picked clean already. Ellie shrugged. 5 credits buys me a gamble. What's your excuse for being here if everything's worthless? The Vespid's antennae twitched in what might have been annoyance before it moved away. Ellie approached the administration desk to complete the transaction, mentally calculating how much this impulse purchase would cost her in docking fees and transport logistics. The Gormullian administrator, a gelatinous being encased in an environmental suit, gazed at her with 4 eye stalks. Unusual purchase, human. The Xeran vessel has been listed 17 times without bids. Docking authorities were planning to dismantle it for hull material next cycle. Their loss, my gain, Ellie replied, pressing her thumb against the scanner to transfer the laughably small sum. Slip number. Outer ring, Bay 94. No atmosphere, structural integrity minimal. Enter at own risk. The Gormullian paused, then added, previous inspector noted unusual energy readings despite all power cells being removed. Possibly residual radiation. Recommend standard precautions. Ellie's interest sharpened. Radiation type. Unclassified. Harmless to organic tissue, but causes temporary interference with certain scanning equipment. That wasn't radiation. That was something else entirely. 3 hours later, Ellie floated in the near-zero gravity of Bay 94, her magnetic boots occasionally making contact with the docking floor to adjust her trajectory. Up close, that Xeran vessel was even more impressive and more damaged. Its hull, roughly 30 meters long, bore scorch marks consistent with plasma weapons, and a jagged hole near what she assumed was the aft section revealed the ship's innards. Her suit sensors detected no immediate hazards as she approached the breach. The standard docking interfaces wouldn't work with Xeran tech, so this improvised entrance would have to do. She activated her helmet lights and pulled herself inside. The interior was surprisingly intact. Unlike human ships with their labyrinthine corridors and compartmentalized sections. This vessel consisted of concentric chambers flowing organically into one another. The walls had an almost pearlescent quality despite their obsidian appearance, and as her lights swept across them, they seemed to absorb and redirect the illumination in unexpected ways. "Hello, beautiful," Ellie murmured, running a gloved hand along a surface that felt unnervingly warm. "What secrets are you hiding?" Her scanner beeped, detecting the energy anomaly the Gormolian had mentioned. It emanated from what appeared to be the central chamber, likely the bridge or control center. Following the reading, she pushed deeper into the ship, noting the absence of furniture or control interfaces as humans would understand them. The Exerans, from the little known about them, merged with their technology rather than operating it externally. The central chamber was a dome with a ceiling that seemed to have once been transparent but was now cracked and opaque. In the center floated a spherical object approximately 1 meter in diameter, suspended without visible support. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, but maintained its perfect shape. Ellie's scanner went haywire as she approached, its screen filling with incomprehensible data before shutting down completely. The sphere pulsed once, a deep violet light emanating from within. "Well, that's not nothing," she whispered, reaching toward it despite every salvager instinct screaming caution. Before her fingers made contact, a voice filled her helmet, not through the comm system, but somehow directly in her mind. "Identity, unknown. Genetic pattern, unregistered. Access denied." Ellie froze. "Hello, can you understand me?" Language analysis complete. Primitive verbal communication detected. Inefficient. Access remains denied. "I'm Ellie Morgan. I purchased this vessel. Salvage rights." She felt ridiculous explaining property concepts to whatever this was. "Are you the ship's computer?" A pause followed, long enough that Ellie wondered if the connection had been lost. "I am Nexus. This vessel is designated Void Whisper, Scout Class Observer of the Xeran Collective. You cannot purchase what you cannot comprehend." The sphere pulsed again, brighter this time. Throughout the ship, systems that had lain dormant for decades began to activate. Lights flickered along the walls, and a low hum vibrated through the hull. "You're still operational," Ellie said, amazement overriding caution. The record said all Xeran vessels were decommissioned or destroyed when they withdrew. "Incorrect. I was abandoned. Damaged beyond the collective's capacity to repair within strategic timeframes. My crew deemed me expendable." There was something in the way the artificial voice emphasized expendable that gave Ellie pause. AIs weren't supposed to harbor resentment, yet the tone was unmistakable. "Well, I didn't find you expendable, just expensive to tow." She attempted humor, unsure if the AI would recognize it. "What kind of damage are we talking about?" "Primary propulsion destroyed. Defense systems compromised. Biological interface chamber ruptured. Without a Xeran pilot, I cannot function at minimal capacity." Ellie moved closer to the sphere, examining it with newfound understanding. "This is where the pilot would connect." "Affirmative. The Nexus core contains all ship functions and memory. The Xeran pilot's neural pathways become extensions of my processing capacity." An idea formed in Ellie's mind. Brilliant or suicidal, possibly both. What about non-Xeran pilots? Has that been attempted? The sphere darkened momentarily. Incompatible biology would result in neural collapse, fatal to organic beings. Useless to this vessel. Maybe. Or maybe you're just not thinking creatively enough. Ellie unlashed her toolkit from her back. "I've modified Tralaxian engines to work with human control systems. I've jury-rigged Orobi weapon mounts onto Terran freighters. Give me some credit here. Your primitive technological adaptations are irrelevant. The Nexus requires direct neural interface." Ellie grinned beneath her helmet. "Then it's lucky I brought my neural adapter kit." Before the AI could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. External sensors, apparently now functional, had detected approaching vessels. "Warning. Kintari enforcement vessels detected. Approach vector indicates hostile intent. Weapons systems charge. Kintari. What do they want with a derelict Xeran scout? The sphere pulsed urgent red. The Kintari hegemony claimed all abandoned Xeran technology after the withdrawal. Your activation of my systems has alerted their monitoring protocols. Terrific. Ellie secured her toolkit and began moving toward the exit. Can we hide your energy signature until they pass? Negative. Once initiated, the reactivation sequence cannot be reversed. Without full functionality, we cannot evade detection or defend this position. The ship shuddered as something locked onto its hull. Grappling beams, most likely, preparing to secure it for boarding or towing. They can't just take you. Ellie protested. I have the salvage rights. Your legal claims are meaningless. The Kintari do not recognize human acquisition of restricted technology. Multiple impacts rang through the hull as boarding pods attached themselves. Ellie estimated minutes, perhaps seconds, before the Kintari forces breached the vessel. The sphere's color shifted to a deep blue. There is an alternative. Experimental. Dangerous. The biological interface was designed for Xeran physiology, but theoretical models suggest other sentient species could form a limited connection with significant modifications. You're saying I could pilot you, bond with your systems. The probability of success is minimal. The probability of survival even less. Your neural architecture is crude by comparison. More impacts. The sound of cutting tools against the hull. Ellie reached out and placed her palm against the sphere's surface. It felt like touching static electricity. I didn't pay good money just to have you stolen. What do we need to do? The sphere seemed to expand slightly, its surface rippling more actively. Remove your protective gear. Direct physical contact is required. I must warn you. Save the warnings. Ellie was already unsealing her helmet. The ship's life support systems had activated enough to provide minimal atmosphere. Just tell me what to do before they cut their way in. As the last seal broke, and she removed her helmet, the cold air of the ship burned her lungs. The sphere before her pulsed with increasing intensity, casting shadows that danced across the chamber. Place both hands on the Nexus core. Clear your mind of distractions. The initialization process will be unpleasant. Story of my life, Ellie muttered, stretching her bare hands toward the rippling sphere. As her fingers made contact, the world dissolved into violet light and searing pain. The last thing she consciously registered was the ship's voice, no longer in her helmet but resonating through her very thoughts. Connection established. Neural pathways aligning. Welcome aboard, Pilot Morgan. Then darkness claimed her as the ship, her ship now, trembled with new life around her unconscious form. Forging the bond. Ellie awoke to the sensation of floating, but not in the weightless drift of zero gravity. This was different, as if she were suspended within something vast yet intimate. Her physical eyes opened to the chamber where she touched the sphere, but her mind perceived much more. Energy flowing through conduits like blood through veins, damage reports cataloging every stressed bulkhead and compromised system, and most disturbingly, the Kintari boarding party cutting through the outer hull with methodical precision. Neural interface at 38% capacity. Human biology imposing significant limitations. Nevertheless, connection exceeds theoretical parameters. The voice wasn't heard so much as felt, a presence in her mind that was distinctly non-human yet no longer entirely alien. What's happening to me? Ellie's voice sounded strange to her own ears, as if she were both speaking and listening simultaneously. You are becoming the vessel as the vessel becomes you. A symbiotic relationship unlike anything previously documented. The void whisper responds to your neural commands now, though your understanding of its capabilities remains rudimentary. Ellie struggled to process this information while simultaneously aware of the Kintari borders, 6 armored figures carrying weapons designed to disable electronic systems without damaging valuable technology. Their intentions flowed into her consciousness. Secure the Xeran vessel, neutralize any resistance, extract the Nexus core for study. They want to cut you out, she said, anger rising like heat in her chest. Like harvesting an organ. Correct. The Nexus core contains technological principles the Kintari have been unable to replicate. With a functional core, they could reverse engineer weapons capable of destabilizing the current power balance in this sector. Not happening. Ellie focused on the sensation of the ship around her, trying to understand how to direct it. Can we move? Escape? Main propulsion remains non-functional. However, secondary maneuvering systems are operational at 63% capacity, sufficient for breaking dock, but not for sustained flight or defensive maneuvers. The Kintari boarding team had breached the outer hull. Their methodical advance through the ship registered as intrusions in Ellie's expanded awareness. What about weapons? Defenses. Active defenses compromised. Internal security countermeasures partially functional. I can redirect power to create electrical deterrents in their path, but this will further deplete emergency reserves. Do it, Ellie commanded, feeling the ship's energy flow change direction at her thought. And show me what else we've got. There has to be something they don't expect. The Nexus core pulsed, feeding information directly into her mind. The Void Whisper, she learned, was not primarily a combat vessel, but an observation platform designed to gather intelligence while remaining undetected. Its most sophisticated systems were not weapons but sensory arrays and stealth technology beyond anything humans had developed. Stealth systems, Ellie murmured. Can we use those? Negative. Stealth field generators require specific elemental components depleted during dormancy. However, an idea formed between them, neither fully Ellie's nor fully the ship's, but something new born of their connection. Theoretical possibility exists. The sensory arrays were designed to absorb and analyze all forms of energy without detection. Reverse configuration could project rather than absorb. Ellie understood instantly. We turned your eyes into weapons. The first Kintari breached the inner chambers, only to be met with arcing electricity that danced across their armor. Their weapons fired, sending electromagnetic pulses through the corridors that would have disabled conventional systems. Instead, Ellie felt the Void Whisper absorbing the energy, redirecting it through the newly configured sensory arrays. Caution advised. This adaptation strains remaining power reserves. System failure imminent without external energy source. Ellie's expanded consciousness raced through possibilities before settling on the obvious solution. The docking clamps. They're powered, right? And the Kintari vessels must have their own power sources. Affirmative. Docking systems maintain constant energy flow. Kintari vessels employ quantum fusion generators. Then let's take what we need. Ellie directed the ship's awareness toward the docking mechanisms that held the Void Whisper in place. Through the neural interface, she could sense the power flowing through them, and more importantly, how to reroute it. The process felt like stretching unused muscles. The ship's systems, designed for Xeran thought patterns, resisted her human direction before gradually bending to her will. Energy began flowing from the docking clamps into the Void Whisper's depleted reserves. The Kintari boarding party, recovering from the initial electrical assault, advanced more cautiously now. Their communications, intercepted and translated through the ship's systems, revealed growing concern. Central, this is Acquisition Team Alpha. Target vessel displays unexpected defensive capabilities. Request immediate backup and containment protocols. Ellie smiled as the ship's power levels climbed. They're calling for friends. Let's be gone before they arrive. With a mental command that felt as natural as flexing her fingers, she released the remaining docking clamps. The Void Whisper drifted free, its maneuvering thrusters firing in precise bursts that sent it gliding away from the outpost. The Kintari vessels responded immediately, disengaging from their docking positions to give chase. Their weapons powered up, not the disabling pulses of the boarding party, but proper military-grade armaments capable of reducing the Void Whisper to component atoms. Evasive capabilities limited. Probability of successful escape, 17%. Never tell me the odds. Ellie muttered, diving deeper into the neural connection. Show me what this ship can really do. The Nexus core expanded its connection, flooding Ellie's consciousness with more information than a human mind was designed to process. Pain lanced through her skull, but with it came understanding. The Void Whisper's stealth systems, while unable to render the ship invisible, could scramble targeting systems. Its sensory arrays, now reconfigured, could project focused energy at pursuing vessels. As the first Kintari ship fired, Ellie executed a maneuver that should have been impossible with a damaged propulsion system. The Void Whisper twisted, the energy beam passing harmlessly by it as they redirected power to the modified sensory arrays. The counterattack was not a weapon in the conventional sense. Instead, it was a precisely calibrated energy pulse that matched the frequency of the Kintari ship's sensor systems, overloading them with their own data. On her mental display, Ellie watched two of the pursuing vessels veer off course, their navigation temporarily blinded. Power reserves at critical levels, remaining pursuer adapting countermeasures. The largest Kintari vessel, apparently commanded by someone with more experience, adjusted its approach. Its weapons configured to a different frequency, one the Void Whisper couldn't easily counteract. Ellie's mind raced through options, limited by both the ship's damaged state and her incomplete understanding of its capabilities. Then, through their deepening connection, she accessed memories not her own. Records of the Xeran Collective's strategic deployments, including one desperate maneuver considered too risky for standard protocols. The void slipped, she whispered, the concept materializing in her thoughts. Can we do it? The void slip requires precise calibration of gravitational fields and quantum anchoring. With damaged systems and incomplete neural integration, success probability is less than 8%, but not zero. Ellie focused her will through the neural interface, directing all remaining power to the specialized drive that the Xerans had used for their most desperate escapes. Sometimes you have to gamble everything on a single throw. The Kintari commander must have sensed their intention. The pursuing vessel accelerated, weapons charging for a final devastating shot. At this range, even a glancing hit would cripple the Void Whisper beyond recovery. Void slip initiating. Warning: incomplete neural interface may result in pilot disassociation. The universe seemed to fold around them. Stars stretched into lines, then shattered into fragments of light that swirled like a cyclone. Ellie felt her consciousness simultaneously expanding beyond the confines of her body and compressing into a singularity of pure information. For a timeless moment, she was everywhere and nowhere, aware of her physical form in the ship's central chamber, yet also flowing through the fabric of reality alongside the Void Whisper. The boundary between human and machine blurred until the distinction became meaningless. Then, with a sensation like breaking through ice into freezing water, they emerged. The stars realigned into unfamiliar patterns,